Okay, hi. We're gonna talk about like the lecture, the lecture notes kind of for the video. So we kind of started talking about like the chapter 3, like reading and how there's important stuff in that. So we talked about how like basically the underlying message of that was how our biological makeup kind of affects our underlying behavior. Um, we talk about like our DNA sequence and like our alleles. We have dominant and recessive traits in your brain makeup and how your frontal lobe, especially in teenagers, isn't fully developed, and how drugs can basically stunt that growth, and teenagers don't really have that like impulse control yet, so we tend to make more like fucked up decisions in terms of that kind of part of our life, and little kids kind of process information like that a lot faster and makes them in turn a lot smarter than teenagers or adults for that matter. We talk about like the nervous system and which is connected to which, and some research in the readings that were really interesting. For example, if two children were adopted and they both had like underlying causes of schizophrenia, if one went to like a less developed household and it was kind of like shitty in turn, like they're more likely to develop the schizophrenia and see those symptoms versus someone who was put into a well-developed household, well taken care of, like you wouldn't see those symptoms. So that was pretty interesting. We talked about that. I also watched a couple videos about how the brain affects you. We have 5 like different ways you can better your brain from Miriam Diamond's video. That's going to be the diet, which kind of helps your brain, you know, puts your body in a good place and puts your mind in a good place and helps you kind of think and process information better. Exercise, which is kind of does the same thing as diet, just kind of puts your brain and your body in the same rhythm and balance. Challenge, which forces you to put yourself in new situations, which kind of goes hand in hand with one of the other ones, which is newness. It kind of gives you different perspectives and allows you to put your opinions aside and listen to other people's. The last one is love, which we're not really antisocial people. We like to be, as a human race, we aren't really antisocial. We like to be with other people, so that really helps with develop our brain. So I thought that was pretty interesting. We also talked about like the happiness advantage from Sean Archer's TED Talk video, and it talked about how your mindset affects how your brain works a lot. So if you have a negative outlook on life, like you're less likely to do well versus if you have a positive one. Basically, then that was kind of the underlying message. You're apt to be 31% more successful if you think positively about the challenges and problems you face in life, and 90% of your happiness is actually dependent on how you think about your life and your outcomes and your problems. If we continue to like study what is average, we're going to stay at this like flat rate and we're only going to stay average. But if you think about things on a more higher level, you're going to kind of progress up. So I thought that was pretty interesting. And that's kind of basically what we kind of talked about in that kind of chapter. Basically how we need to have more of a positive mindset and basically train your brain and get into the habit of being more and more positive, and training your brain to be better, like actively thinking about how you want to become better and better your brain.